Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're jumping into a really profound lecture that Radhanath Swami gave in Mumbai way back in December 1989. He draws on the ancient Srimad Bhagavatam to tackle a huge question, one that really gets to the heart of spiritual life. What's the real difference between enlightened detachment and just plain old laziness? Let's unpack it. So let's just dive right into the deep end, shall we? There's this very common criticism that gets thrown around a lot. Is the whole spiritual path just an excuse, an escape for people who can't really hack it in the real world? Right. Radhanath Swami points out that from a purely materialistic point of view, this is exactly how it looks. It sees a spiritual life not as some higher calling, but as a kind of retreat for societal dropouts. But a story at the heart of his lecture presents this amazing paradox that just completely flips that idea on its head. Yeah, so this ancient story from the Srimad Bhagavatam is really the foundation for the whole talk. It sets up this fascinating puzzle. We have this great, wise king, Prahlada Maharaja, who stumbles upon a sage out in the forest. So the king is looking at this total contradiction. He sees a guy who is doing absolutely nothing. He's just lying down, no money, totally inactive. But here's the thing. He's not skinny or miserable. In fact, his face is bright, he's healthy, fat even, and the king can just tell he's incredibly intelligent. So this is the big question, right? The one that had the king scratching his head, and it's the central mystery we're going to unravel. How is that even possible? The answer cuts right to the core of what real, genuine spirituality actually is and what it isn't. And the lecture makes this really powerful argument. It says that yeah, sure, some people might use spirituality as an excuse to be lazy, but authentic spiritual life? It's the absolute opposite of inaction. It's actually a super demanding, high-energy path. You know, far from being the easy way out, Radhanath Swami describes the real deal as a path for people who are willing to sacrifice everything. We're talking worldly status, comfort, you name it, all for a higher purpose. And that journey requires a massive amount of inner work. And that work isn't just, sitting around thinking peaceful thoughts. It's a life of very active, very conscious effort. It means rising early, working hard in service of others, and always trying to inspire people by your own example. This is definitely not a path for the idle. Wow, this is such a powerful way to reframe it. Enthusiasm isn't just some mood you might be in. In this lecture, it's presented as the actual lifeblood of a spiritual practitioner. It's the energy that turns a chore into real devotion. Without it, the practice is basically lifeless, just an empty shell. And get this, laziness isn't just some personal problem. It's described as this highly contagious disease that can actually infect and totally weaken an entire community. And that's exactly why enthusiasm is so important. It's the antidote. And the greatest service you can do for others? To lead by an energetic example. Okay, so if it isn't just about what you're doing on the outside or avoiding work, then what's the single most important quality? Well, Radhanath Swami is crystal clear about this. It all comes down to one thing: sincerity. And sincerity isn't just some vague, nice feeling. It's defined here as something very real, very concrete. It's that genuine, from the heart, willingness to sacrifice your own self-interest for something bigger than you. That's the internal engine that powers all real spiritual progress. And this is where sincerity becomes a practical tool for your life. Radhanath Swami lays out this really clear process. At every crossroads, big or small, the key is to just pause and ask from your heart, how can I best serve in this situation? This sincere question is said to unlock our higher intelligence because it cuts through all the noise of our own selfish desires. Now, this is a revolutionary idea. It's not about how fancy or sophisticated your philosophy or religious system is. A person who is deeply, truly sincere on a simpler path can make way more progress than someone who's in the quote-unquote highest path, but is just, going through the motions. Your motivation, your sincerity, that's everything. So, building on this bedrock of sincerity, the lecture then gives us this incredibly practical blueprint for how to interact with pretty much every single person we meet in our life. And just look at how clear this framework is. It maps out your whole social world. For your teachers and mentors, the right attitude is to serve and ask questions. With your friends and peers, it's about friendship, collaboration, encouragement. For people you can help, your job is to uplift them with compassion. And for those people who are just venomously antagonistic, the advice is simple: just avoid them. So how does all of this, the action, the sincerity, our relationships, how does it all come together? Well, it all leads to understanding the true spirit of devotion. The core mindset here is this constant, conscious effort to always prioritize service to God, service to others, while deliberately putting our own wants and our own desires for personal gain way in the backseat. This isn't a passive thing. It's a dynamic, moment-to-moment practice. And this is really where it all comes home. This is where our personal practice has its biggest impact on the world. The most powerful way to inspire other people isn't by what we say. It's by the energy, the enthusiasm, and the sincerity of our own actions. Our example is our loudest sermon. And so we're left with this really deep question to reflect on. Maybe that sage in the forest wasn't lazy at all. Maybe his outer stillness was the result of incredible constant inner work. The truest test, then, is this. In those quiet moments of decision, when absolutely no one is watching, what does our choice reveal about our own sincerity? Because that's where the real spiritual work begins.